I wasn't going to go to law school. That wasn't my plan, and I wasn't going to be a history professor. I wasn't a great student undergrad. My focus was elsewhere, basically playing basketball and goofing off. And I'm man enough to admit it. I really didn't know what I wanted to do after college. I played basketball for 2 years. I played 1 year in A.K.A, Argentina. That's where I learned Spanish. And then I ended up playing like 2 years later in El Salvador. I had a friend down there, and he called me one day, and he said, "Hey, they've got a pro league here, and they're looking for players." So, long story short, I ended up in San Salvador, El Salvador. Between those two basketball stints, I did some travel in Central America and Mexico, and I spent time in a language school in Guatemala. So my Spanish was getting, pretty good, I guess. I'm not a native speaker, but I noticed whenever we were somewhere where there's translation needed, everyone looked to me. So that was my indication that I was getting pretty good, I guess. And anyway, when I got back to the States, I don't know, I just kind of floundered, but around 27, believe it or not, I ended up teaching at the rival high school from where I attended. I taught at Lakeview, Fort Oglethorpe High School. And that was 1992, and that's going way back. But that's how I ended up teaching. Prior to getting that job, I was living in South Beach, Florida, just kind of, hand to mouth, barely getting by. And I got a call from an old principal, and they needed someone immediately because their Spanish teacher was very ill and was going to pass away. So that's how I really got my first public school job. And ever since then, I've always, I've been a Spanish teacher or ESL teacher, off and on. The years I worked, that's what I do primarily.
Spanish and ESL. Okay, so that's
Yes.
another question I had for you, because I know that you started. I kind of heard that story before of how you got into teaching Spanish. I didn't know if you kind of hopped in and out of other fields, or you stayed basically with Spanish ESL your career so far.
Yeah, I can't say that I didn't really have a career. My undergrad's in history, and I wasn't going to go to law school. That wasn't my plan, and I wasn't going to be a history professor. I wasn't a great student undergrad. My focus was elsewhere, basically playing basketball and goofing off, and I'm man enough to admit it. Um, teachers is one of those things. I had the skill they needed,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much what got me in there. I'd never anticipated being a Spanish teacher. As a matter of fact, at Davidson, I think I made 3 C's. I could barely pass. I didn't know what was going on. I was the flow killer in class, as I like to say. And then one of the great ironies of life, me teaching Spanish.
We used to say in grad school, C's get degrees. We didn't knock those C's. We got we still got through.
Yeah, well, in grad school, I was paying my own money, so my grades were much better, like
Really.
almost double better, right? Yeah, undergrad though, yeah, I definitely knew the C path.
How's everything shifted for you just as far as teaching this year compared to the previous 5 years? I'm sure COVID has done a number on all of us, but what is it looking like for you?
Well, I've been amazed to watch how the people pretty much just social distance instinctively.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of ingrained, and when they generally, I don't like people sitting in the back, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't care this time. If they want to gravitate to the back and stay away from people, that's fine, as long as they're going to do their work. But notice that I think the biggest issue, and I've talked with some of my coworkers about this. In my case, it was especially bad. Is that since I was already I've been retired a couple times and been out of the workforce. Once I get into my no school groove, I'm there and I'm very content doing what I do, which is basically, run, read, cook, drink red wine. But got out in March and we didn't get back till I think mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
I was already back in my retirement mode. I can't run from that back. And so mentally, it was very difficult to start. I would say last, I don't know, week or so, I've been feeling better mentally. And I have one of the best jobs you could ever have. But I just got I just got my little pattern of not having to do all the things that you have to do as a teacher. One of the other things we have, and I'm sure a lot of people are going through this, there's more of an emphasis of having things online in the event that you're
Mm-hmm.
ill or quarantined or whatever's going the case will be. And, you know, those things sound easy to do. And there, a lot of people are very good with the technological aspects, but like getting a whole curriculum on that, that's a whole other ball of wax.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I just don't have the mental energy to stay up all night formatting stuff. And it just stresses me out beyond belief. And I know I speak for many people when I say that.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, you know, we're all doing what we can. We have not had a lot of relapses here in South Georgia. It's gone pretty smoothly, at least in my town.
Awesome. That's good. Yeah. I'm struggling too with, well, I want to get into like how you have gone to lots of different districts and why you do that. But I'll let you know
Yes.
too, for myself, I've done that unintent. Like I just kind of fell into this long-term subbing kind of thing where I have a year at a district doing speech for whoever, you know, needs support that year, a year at another district. Once I found you, I was really kicking myself thinking, man, I could have been taking advantage of this 457, but whatever. This is kind of how it's been for me. And each district I have found operates on its own system completely. You know, like they may have their own curriculums, they may have their own, you know, some use Google, some use Microsoft Office, some use. So how is that? When was the last time you switched districts, and have you noticed those kind of big differences between districts?
Um, let's see. Going back in the memory bank. Well, I was at LaGrange High for 7 years, so I was really acclimated to everything they did there. Um, you know, I don't. It wasn't very difficult, like going from LaGrange High to my next job, which was here in Eccles County. Um, the first thing I noticed here, I'm in a small district now,
Mm-hmm.
and we just didn't have the same email flow. To me, that I don't like that. Email can just be like a data dump, and you know, I read emails. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean I remember them and I can process them. And I'm not a dumb person. I don't think it just gets to be like you're drinking from a fire hose. But here it's not such an issue because we don't just get the inundation of emails. But I've been at bigger districts where you will. I mean, I'm just talking about things I have difficulty with keeping up with all the things you want to do, all the new programs they might want you to do. Sometimes it's an issue of like, what is it, the AR reading test? They would say, "Oh yeah, you're going to take your class to do that." And I didn't know where to tell the kids to go. That happened in a job I had, but fortunately, a lot of the kids are smart enough; they can tell you. They remember what they're supposed to do, and they kind of walk me through that. But there's always a risk when you move a district that there's going to be some changes. But by and large, I don't think they're that big. Um, at least that's not what I've seen. You know, and another thing is being an ESL, excuse me, a Spanish teacher. I've just noticed a lot of times they need a Spanish teacher yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just happy they have someone who's qualified to teach Spanish. Um, and you know, I mean, I've been in interviews before where the principal almost seemed desperate to get someone. He asked me if I knew other people because he had two more positions
Oh my
to
God.
fill in addition to one I was interviewing for. So you know, as long as you teach them Spanish, a lot of times it's kind of like you know how it is when you shut the
Yeah.
door. It's your classroom.
Yeah.
And if you're not causing any problems, he's happy. You've got your kids in there. You're not sending people up there for discipline 24/7. And but as far as just the transitions, I don't. It wouldn't stop me from going to another district.
Yeah.
You know, making that adjustment.
Okay.
Another thing is, I say they know when you come to a new district, you're new there, no, regardless of how many years experience, and you don't know all
Mm-hmm.
the protocols and things. So, you know, I'd say by year two that they expect a little more, but that's when I go to the. I'm in my 50s and I don't understand your technology.
So you, from my memory, you were not always as financially savvy as you are currently, right? So you started
No.
off like most of us with student loan debt, kind of struggling to get by with figuring all that out and how to pay that off and with a negative net worth. And now you are the millionaire educator. Some know you as Ed Mills, Gerry Born. Can you
Yes.
kind of walk us through that financial path? How did you get from A to almost Z?
Well, well, I mean, it didn't start right after, you know, out of college. I didn't really have a plan. I was just kind of playing basketball, not making tons of money
Mm-hmm.
playing basketball either. I might add, you know, I think the most I would make would be like, it's so long. I think I was making like 2,500 a month for the seasons I played, and I had no expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even a little less in El Salvador, I think that was like 1,800 a month, which is a lot of money there. We're talking like 1987 and 89. But anyway, but I had no plan coming out the gate, you know, and when you don't have a plan, you just kind of drift. And so I pretty much drifted. I played basketball, went to school, did odd jobs, substitute taught, all the way till I was age about 27. All right. And that's when I got my first, real job. Um, and, when I got that, even though I had a job, I didn't have any idea what I was supposed to do with my income. And I think I made 18,500 my first year. I had a provisional certificate that was up at Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe High School in North Georgia. And, they could have paid me $100,000. I wouldn't have known what to do with the money. So, I mean, it's a matter of, I'm not saying money doesn't matter, but having a plan and knowing what to do with it matters. Um, I did know that I probably needed to go back to grad school to get some other career options. So after teaching a year and a half, I ended up in grad school. I was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi for Southern Miss University. And I also was doing another program out in Texas, Texas A&M International for an MBA. And that's, prior to that, I never had debt. That's where I amassed about a $20,000 student loan. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but keep in mind, I had to start paying on that in 1996, and I never had any debt. My wife picked up about 25,000 for her MBA. I realized one of the things that kind of helped me is I had a part-time job teaching ESL at the university, so that kind of, I had some money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when we got married and we had negative 45,000 between us, so we were ages. Let me get this right. 33 and 31. That was our net worth, negative 45.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I never had any debt up until that point. So I just didn't know. I didn't know what to do, but I did know I needed to take care of that debt, and that's when I took a teaching job in Saudi Arabia, teaching ESL. And then I think I wrote it down here. Let me see real quick. Yeah, from about 96 to 98, I paid off that debt. So that's when my net worth was zero. So that would put me at what, 35, my wife 33. So, that there's a bad start to a career. There's, graduate school debt and just basic general financial ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
all along that way. And I know that's not atypical. There's many people like that. So, I mean, that's why I've been so open about sharing my story, because money's taboo. And, people need to see examples. I didn't see examples. And so then from there is when I started reading more in Saudi Arabia, about finance. I had a lot of time. I had taught my classes, and then there's a lot of downtime as far as, uh, full weekends, had a lot of time after work. So I'd read. And that's where I started studying or reading about index funds and John Bogle's, some of his books. And, at the time I was very eager for that knowledge. And I know it's kind of like the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, that's basically what happened.
That's what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's kind of like you can be the best teacher in the world, but the student's not receptive. It's not their point in life to take in this information. It's difficult, so, but I was really trying to figure out the money piece, because I thought, it'd be nice to be up and have money behind me all the time, and I didn't know anyone that lived like that. At least no one ever explained to me how to do this. And so in Saudi Arabia, that's where my wife and I got our net worth up to about $100,000, and we left after 9/11, got back in December of 2001. And this is, to me, where it that was great to get out of debt and get a little bit of money behind me. And I thought 100,000 was actually a lot more money than it really is,
Mm-hmm.
because when you never had any money, you know how that is. But then, I took a public school teaching job in LaGrange, Georgia, at LaGrange High School. And then this is where I started learning about some of the plans you're looking at, pensions and 403Bs and 457s. And I never really had to deal with this, and let's see, my first year, 2002, 2003, my wife and I had a combined income of 85,000, which seemed like a lot because, my previous job, I think like I said, I think my most money I'd made in Georgia at that time was $22,000 as a teacher in the Atlanta area.
Okay.
I was there 1 year before I went to grad school. And, next thing you know, my wife and I are pulling 85 combined. So I noticed things had changed in Georgia. And so then I was trying to figure out where can I park this money and save it? And I learned, about the tax advantage um, savings of namely 403B accounts and 457 accounts. Those are accounts that I'm pretty sure you probably see in your district. Um, and also, I kind of had to learn about the Georgia teacher's pension.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is very state specific, very sometimes even very specific to a district. Um, all I would say with that is I would get the document of my pension, and as boring as it might be, I would start trying to decipher it and reading it and going on the website. And if you can't figure it out, talk to someone who's close to the retirement age in your district. Trust me, they'll be able to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but essentially, the way it worked here in Georgia is when you get 10 years of service in, it doesn't matter if they're consecutive or not. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to have 10 years in the Georgia TRS plan. You're vested, which means at a retirement age of 60, that's what the retirement age is here in Georgia, you will get to draw. And it's basically 2% of every year. So let's say you just did 10 years. That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You would get 20% of your highest 2-year salary average. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you made 60 and you made 50, 2-year, and so you had an average of 55. You would get 20% of that, which would be 11,000 if I'm just doing math off the top of my head. But so, but knowing you have something on the back end,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. And so here's what I would tell a new teacher, for example, that's looking at that. You need to understand, like, maybe I'm not a 30-year person. I knew I wasn't going to do 30 years in one district. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I think it's very important they know what does it take to vest and have a stake in the pension plan so that at the back end, you're going to get something. Here in Georgia, I pull all the new teachers that I deal with, say, hey, you get, no matter you like it or hate it, whatever, you got to do 10 years, not consecutively, but in Georgia, and you'll have something for your retirement. But I don't ever remember. I mean, you get this really kind of like 3-minute overview of the pension plan and your
Mm-hmm.
first day at orientation, and
If
in my
that,
case,
if that.
yeah, it's just
Sometimes it's
you
a drive
don't.
by, like this is you're gonna get a pension at the end. We don't.
Yeah,
I
here's
a
the
lot of my
pamphlet. Good luck figuring it out.
yeah.
Yeah, and some of the Georgia plan seems pretty straightforward. Some of them have more bells and whistles
I was gonna
and
ask you, like
twists
in
and
New York, we
turns.
have a lot of like the tier one is this, the tier four is this, the tier six, like tier five. Every couple of years, there's a different
Yeah,
tier. You don't have that in Georgia, where you have a lot of
no,
figuring
we
out.
don't have. I mean, no. Yeah, that's interesting because I've heard people I think in Illinois talk about the various twists and turns they
Mm-hmm.
had to figure out. We don't have that yet, and I guess the reason that is that it's a pretty sound plan, and it basically is it's a what is it called, a guaranteed benefit,
Yeah.
and the formula is held up. We're not real close to going under anything. I don't think we're funded. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I need to say. So they haven't had all those type of tweaks yet, and so it's easy for me to explain mine, but that's why I don't even dare try to talk about pensions nationally
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's a whole other can of worms.
We did
But
talk
but
to
that's
someone. He goes by Grumpus Maximus, who was in
oh
the military. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I
I'm reading this
mean,
book.
he's amazing with how he can internalize that and kind of spit back what you're looking at with your pension. And I mean, it's a study. I think everyone, like you said, once you sit down, it's a boring, bunch of information to look at, but it's necessary to kind of have a plan, because once you have a plan, you can work from that. But
Yeah, I'm reading this book. I'm almost done with it, and I think that would be a good thing for people to look at. His
hmm let's talk
okay,
457s. Originally, you said you knew about your pension when you started teaching. You learned about that
right.
a little bit. How did you really get educated? Did you just force yourself to sit down and listen? Did you have certain resources that kind of
Uh,
came up that you were like, okay, this is going to be how I'm setting up my plan?
well, it's funny because 2002, 2003 isn't really that long ago, but
Mm-hmm.
403B world was pretty much a wasteland. You could not find any information. And I stumbled across, and you probably know the name, Dan Otter,
Mm-hmm.
and Dan Otter's site, 403B Wise. And that's where I read anything about the 403B. And somewhere, I realized it's just like a 401k, essentially, the contribution limits and the tax advantage. the tax deferred advantages. But what I realized the more I looked at it is how there was almost no oversight at all. You know, some districts might offer 10, 12, 20
Mhm.
plans, and you would just go pick it. And just because it's on the list doesn't mean the district approves it. It just means it's on the list.
Right.
And the what I realized quickly is that a lot of these plans had huge fees, 2-3% a year fees. That's insane. Then I also realized a lot of them had surrender charges. If you wanted to move your money later, they would skim your account 5%, totally legally. It's part of the annuity contract. And then some of them even still had load charges. So like a 5% load, meaning for every $100 you invest, they only invest 95. Five is taken up front. And they give you all these reasons why there are all these fees. Well, we have to have, I don't really care about those reasons. It's my money. And I kind of be,
Keep your
yeah,
hands off. I don't care what your excuses you're giving us.
I
Yeah.
realized pretty quick that it really irritated me and bothered me. And I had a bad attitude when, I don't know. Generally, I like people. I'm affable, but knowing what was going on in the market, I was very weary of these financial advisors and sales reps because most people don't think to ask anything about that. Um, and at my school, well, first of all, I think we had like 8 or 10 providers, and I went down the list and called. I think 3 of them were disconnected numbers. Right? I was like, what? What kind of banana? But this is just ridiculous. But then anyway, after about 6 months there, I lobbied and I kind of petitioned to get TIAA-CREF added to the district. And we got that. And eventually we got Vanguard added as a 403B. So, you know, we had some decent options on there. And so let me go back and say that first year I started contributing was 2003. And my wife and I did $13,000 each, and we did our IRAs. So no, it was 12,000 each. So that was 24,000 plus 3 and 3. So we saved $30,000 our first year, and that's when I realized, oh man, this is pretty good. I never heard anybody say you could save that much money as a teacher, and that had I not stumbled in and started looking at the 403B, and also coupled with the fact I was coming out of Saudi where I'd been saving aggressively, and I was looking to save. I just kind of stumbled into that. And every year, the 403B, as well as the 401k and all these other plans, they were getting bigger contribution limits. So I would just go up with them. So I think the next year was 13. So that's 26. And I think the IRA is the same. So we did 32. Well, eventually these kept getting up to like, what are they up to now? 19.5 or something? And, the IRAs are 6,000 now. So you start getting some big numbers. And, oh wait, let me check in my sheet here. From like 2002 to 2009, my wife and I guess we got our income up to, or our total net worth up to $350,000. I have to check. Maybe that was 400, but from 100 to 350, let's just say we'll lowball. I was thinking, wow, I didn't know that was possible, and I had the report I'd put on the fridge, and my wife would look, and she's got an MBA, but she would say, is that right? Is that number right? She's kind of shocked at how much money we had there. Somewhere along the way, I learned about the 457, I think around maybe 2006. I think that was the first year I invested in that. And what I realized is this is just another account like a 403B or 401k. Like you could fully fund the 403B and you could turn right around, fully fund the 457. And I just couldn't believe that because that's a lot of money you can take off your taxable income. And I started doing that. I think a couple of years I did that fully.
Now, how did you find out about the 457? Because that's one that I still find most teachers, well, I never knew what it was until recently. And I've been asking my new district about it. Nobody knows what it is. No one's heard of a 457.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Like this is crazy because you have two awesome, well, maybe not awesome, but you have 2 big buckets you can park money in. And no one knows about it. I guess first time I heard of a 457, there was an email that was shot out. I think it was by Valak, they're AIG now, and it just mentioned it and what it was, and it was available. And I wasn't very thrilled with that platform, but then I realized, well, I could park money there. Here's what I didn't realize. I didn't realize that that money that goes there comes off your taxes. And then later on, and I know drives you crazy knowing this information now, if you change jobs, if you separate services, they say, change jobs, you can pull this money out like regular income. So it means is like you can just build that account up and let's say they come in and say, you're the worst employee we have, you're fired. Okay, I've got $50,000
Bye.
that I have access to. Or like you can't stand anymore, you quit and you take a year off and go to Mexico. You can just pull out that money and it comes out as normal income. But you have control over how much income you pull out, and you can make. I would say you could probably do maybe 2.5 years in Mexico on $50,000, depending on how you live. But I started loading that account, and so essentially at that point, my wife and I we were funding our 403b to the max. I was doing my 457. I didn't quite understand how awesome it could be, and we were doing our IRAs to the max. And that's how we got it up to $350,000. But then this is where it got interesting to me. In 2000, at the end of the 2009 school year at LaGrange High School, my wife and I we did a jump to another job, and it was strategic. It was premeditated.
Okay.
Yeah, I made up this mad scientist plan with a spreadsheet and everything. It's on one of my blogs.
Working for you. It has been working. I love going through your blog. You can lose hours going through all the ways you thought of different things and how you're kind of hacking the system. It's great.
Yeah, and I was, but I didn't know anybody was doing this, and I thought, am I crazy? I mean, I just didn't know. I mean,
and I've heard you say your accountants even questioned you, right? Like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work, and then
they because they don't see anybody do some of these things, and well, he noticed I was always shaving my income down to a certain level to get a saver's credit. He's like, I noticed you always fall in there. I told him, so well, hey, I do have an MBA and I know how to reverse engineer my taxes. But I kind of got really good at that. And if you've ever seen my free money post,
that's what I'm going to want to spend time on at the end here.
Yeah. Okay. And I've got my new tables ready. I haven't written the post yet, but I've done the tables. But
exclusive, world exclusive.
Yeah. Woohoo. And it's funny. I always have to reteach myself that it's not intuitive to me. But I realized that in 2009, if we took new jobs, we would be able to tap in into our 457 money, which at that point was about $90,000. Okay, between my wife and I. So all we had to do is we had to limp into 2010. So we made our first semester with our new employer, Eccles County. And I even took on a little debt. I think I had a little credit card debt to get there, But then when 2010 happened, I think I pulled out $30,000, and having $30,000, that's pretty much my income for the year. What I did at that point is I went in and zeroed out my checks. I loaded up all the 457 and 403B. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what it was back then. I think it was 15,000. Actually, I think it was 16,000. So I did 16,000 to the 403B and the 457, and my wife did as well. So that's $64,000.
So for the people who don't understand front loading, can you kind of explain zeroing out your checks? What does that mean? You went in and you said, I don't want a paycheck. Put it all to my 403B. Put it all to my 457. So your paychecks would be like cents. Right? Dollars, couple dollars.
Yeah, I had a couple of paychecks that were literally 2 cents. Sometimes they won't let you zero them out all the way because their system won't allow you. What it means when you front load, if you have money to live off of, and like I said, when I took that 30,000 from the 457, I had that pot of money. So that meant I could take my paychecks and have them diverted to my tax advantage accounts, the 457 and 403B. So that means, I would do, let's say I had $5,000 and, my wife and I, we both have a specialist degree, which is not a PhD, but a little below. And we had a lot of years. So our salaries are pretty good at this point. So I would do like 2,500 to the 457 and 2,500 to the 403B. And I would have just the remains of my paycheck, maybe $100 or whatever. So I get a check for $100 and my wife would get a check for 60 or whatever. And everybody's like, are you sure you want to do that? Like the people in HR.
The people in the office probably are like,
yeah, they're like, we're gonna. we're gonna
Yeah.
have to get approval, every month, I guess the superintendent has to look at that and
Hmm.
sign off. And he pulled me aside one day and he was like,
Are
"Oh,
things
now what are you
okay,
doing? This is," and I explained to him, I said, "Well, I'm in hardcore savings mode. I'm going to be saving to the max here the next couple of years." And 2010, 11, and 12, we did that. I wrote a note, and in our accounts, we had our IRAs. We also, one year we started an HSA. Basically, in 4 years, we did $263,000. Um, and at that point, I believe our net worth was up to $700,000 because the market was picking up, and that's when I realized, well, we're on to something here because like a lot of people, and I'm sure you hear this in the teachers lounge, and
hmm
there's no money in teaching. We should be paid more, and I'm not going to sit there and say I want to be paid less. But if the bumps aren't coming, if the increases aren't coming, I'm going to do something for me, and to maximize my work here. So that's when 2012 was our last year in Eccles, and we took a year off. We got rehired back at LaGrange High. My wife did a year there. I lasted like 2 or 3 weeks. I should not have gone back to school. I resigned my position. I feel really bad about that even
Oh,
today.
really?
Yeah, I just mentally I needed a break, and I
Yeah.
should not have taken the job. And they're, "Oh, we can't wait to have you back." And people taught me into it, and I was, and then I was like, ugh. And then I was teaching something new. I was gonna, because I'm good with money now. Supposedly, I was going to do business courses.
Okay.
Gosh, some of those were so dry, and I was just did not enthuse me.
hmm
Um, but anyway, I got out, and then my wife and I, 2014, 2000, make sure I'm telling you right, 2013, 14, we took a year off, and we just traveled, saw family, stayed with relatives, went to Mexico for 6 weeks. It was just like living a very low key lifestyle. We homeschooled our son that year.
hmm
Um,
What do you remember approximately? What grade was he in at that point?
he was second grade then,
Okay, so
second
he
grade.
he was totally flexible too, just kind of going with the flow. Like, okay, this year I'm going to be
Y-
homeschooled, or was it hard?
Yeah, we also learned how hard it is to homeschool your own son, and
Mhm.
you know, and for whatever reason, I guess I'm a coach as well, and there's a part of me, even though I'm easygoing, that can be very assertive,
Mhm.
and he just didn't want any part of me teaching him. So
My husband also, he's been a swim coach for so many years, and he thought, oh, this is going to be great. Now with, we kept our kids home the first 10 weeks of this year, and he was looking forward to having more time with them. And he's like, this is not what I was expecting. This is not what I thought it was going to be like.
yeah,
But it's
right.
not the same.
Well, we learned pretty quick that our son, he's an only child, right? So
Mhm.
he likes school. He likes the social aspects, and what
Right.
I mean by that is being around other kids. He's not like the class cut up and raising Cain.
Yeah.
He just likes being around other kids because that's where he gets to see other kids. And he does well in school. He's an AB student, and he's very funny. They all tell me. I don't know where he gets that from,
Who
but
knows?
yeah. But we had a great year, and that was the first time we went to Mexico, and that's where we thought, well, maybe we'd like to come back. So what we did from there is I talked to my wife. I'm trying to remember where I was mentally on this. I told her, look, the blog says Millionaire Educator, and at that time I think we had $700,000, maybe a little more. I said, what we need to do is buckle down for 2 years and push through the plateau, and just kind of break through. So we went to Douglas, Georgia, Coffee County, and we did 2 years there, and we just wash and repeat, fully funded 403b, 457 IRA, and now we're doing the HSA for the family, and that we saved $245,000 in 2 years. So then that September of 2016, we told him we were going to take. The guy asked me, he'd seen my resume, a very nice gentleman, my principal there, great guy,
Around it
and
all, or
yeah, we're having a great interview, and get to the end, and he's like, look, I got to ask you, how long are you going to stay? I've seen your resume. I told him, I said, 2 years is what I'm planning, maybe 3, but to be
very
honest,
honest.
probably 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just figure honesty is the best policy.
Mhm.
And he told me, he said, I admire your honesty. You're just open about it. And he probably didn't understand what I was doing. I know that looks probably weird to people.
Mhm.
Um, so we did that, and then we took 2 years off. So we took let's see, 16, 17 school year off.
So each
And
time you took that time off, were you pulling from your most recent 457?
yeah,
What was your
I was
method
pulling.
there?
So I was just my previous 457 money. I would just take withdrawals from it,
Hmm.
and as needed. I wouldn't take necessarily 30, but like let's say I start the year, I pulled out 20. There's a 20% withholding. That means I have $16,000 cash um, in January. Now, another thing I need to add here is I also do something that's called a 72T distribution.
I
You
haven't
might
talked
want to
about
read
that at all
about
with
that.
anyone because I don't have a full understanding of it. So give me a rundown.
Uh, okay, all that basically means is you can take, let's say you've moved all your 403b money over the years to an IRA.
Okay.
And though you can't get to that money till you're 59 and a half. That's what you're always told, but that's not necessarily true. There are ways to get it, and if you look on the IRS website, substantially equal periodic payments (SEPP), and this is the 72T is the part of the tax code that talks about that. And what that means is you basically take that IRA or however one of your IRAs, however you want to do it, and make it into an annuity. And so based on your life, your age and your life expectancy, and there's a certain interest rate you use that the I forget who the treasurer I think puts that out. You can pull money from your IRA every year, the same amount until 59 and a half. I just so myself I pull out $10,404 up until I'm
Very
60. I'm going to do
specific.
that.
Okay.
Well, I know that number. I see it every year. And basically, my wife and I get 18,000 and change. So
Okay.
knowing I have $18,000 going to hit my bank account in January, and then I pull 457 money out, I'm kind of flush. I have, I've got money there. So if I need to get an apartment in Mexico, I've got the money to do that. Um, and if I need more money, I can then do a distribution from the 457. I can do another one if need be. And I've done that some years. I'll maybe do 2 or 3 distributions. There's no limit on distributions, at least not that I'm aware of. If there's any changes to that, but I don't see why there would be. But so essentially, I can tap those. As it stands now, my 457s from those jobs have been depleted. But now my wife and I are sitting here. My wife's not working this year. Um, she and I think at the end of this year, are going to have roughly $150,000 in 457 money sitting there.
Beautiful.
And yeah, and I'm going to
Well
do
done.
another. Yeah, well, I'm going to do another 26 in 2021, and we'll see what's going to happen from there. I'm kind of undecided about my future. I've just been doing this for a while,
Hmm.
and after my start to the year, I'll just be open about it. I was like, wow, maybe I just, the kids need a very energetic teacher, and there were periods there I just didn't feel like I had it. Um, so maybe I need to take a break. But my son is going to graduate from this school. Maybe I just need to be re-retired. We'll see what I feel like in May. But we can tap my wife's money now. Starting in, we would do it in January.
Hmm.
Start that year out with a nice chunk place there. So that's how we've essentially used the 457. It always gives us a financial tailwind at our back and just gives us a nice push through the year. And I think everyone should live like that. It's just nice knowing that you have money. And it doesn't take a lot of money
Hmm.
to give you that space. I mean, I don't know what the most I've ever pulled out in a year, but my 18,000 from the other thing, let's say I pulled out 40, that might have been the most I ever did. So what would that be? 58,000 bucks? I mean, really, that's
Hmm.
not that much money.
It's funny when
But
you hear about all the different places you've been and, oh, my wife's taking a year off here, a year off there. People's natural response is not to understand it and be like, oh, it must be nice. Like, you must be loaded. But you've really
the,
figured out the system to like make it work for you. So it's not that you're teaching and earning like $2 million a year. You've just figured out how to live on less and
we are
save a ton. And you've really
yeah, we are pretty frugal. I mean, like where we live, the cost of living is pretty reasonable, very reasonable. We bought a house here for 68,000 bucks, a 3-2 brick ranch owned by one family, 1,600 square feet. I love it here. I mean,
Yeah.
we were looking for a landing pad, a place when we come back to the States, and a place that, it's a small town, one stoplight town, about 1,000 people. But, at this point in my life, that's all I need. I have internet here. I've got a library about 40 yards from my house. So I've got books, I've got internet connection, I've got all the facilities around here to use for running and working out. I'm happy. I'm very happy here. But that doesn't cost a lot of money, living the way I like to live.
Hmm.
Now, I like to go out and do things occasionally, but like this past weekend, we went to a state park in Florida, went swimming in the springs, Fannin Springs off the Suwannee River. Beautiful, but it was $6 entrance fee. That's what I paid to do that, and just a
Yeah.
little gas money. Life doesn't have to cost a lot,
We are
and
just
I've
so
always,
consumerist,
uh,
lifestyle in our country that like if you can have that mindset shift where it doesn't matter to you to be buying so much, look at what you can do. And you can go all over the world, you know?
well, when I used to hear people talk in that line of thinking, I used to think, "Oh, be quiet, hippie.
Right.
Listen to that hippie
Right.
over there," And it's like, wait, I get what you're saying. I really, I have,
You can't argue
a
the
fish.
math. When you look at your math, you can't argue like say like, oh, he's just loaded. You figured it out. You're working for it and you're
Well,
not like a slave to that culture, you just decided not to think that way.
well, a fish doesn't know what water is, and here in the West, people don't understand just the level of consumerism and the exposure to commercials that you just live in, and
Hmm.
and then everyone's always spending. They don't even think about it. They just buy stuff, like fast food and junk,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like when you stop and you think about what you're doing, and it's like, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go to McDonald's now, it's like what, $8 to $10, $8 for a. I'm like, $8. This is not. This in my mind, this is not worth $8.
And
And
that's
that.
a cheap fast food restaurant. You go
Well,
somewhere
that's what
else
I'm
like
saying.
Wendy's, and then you spend like $40. You might as well go up to.
Yeah, and that's where my wife and one day I don't know, we dropped like $30 in the three of us, and I just turned to her, I said, "Did you get $30 of value from that?" And she was like, "Nope." I said, "I'd rather buy the stuff and cook it at home." And when we eat out, it's a treat.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll give you a quick example. This past weekend, we ate at a restaurant right near the park, the lighthouse down there in Fanning Springs. And it was like, I think with the tip, I ended up paying $67 for the three of us, but I had all you can eat shrimp. And my son said, "This is the best seafood I've had in a long time." It was awesome. And it was a treat. It was an event.
Hmm.
So, and in that time with the COVID and all, it was really special because we just don't get out that frequent to do that.
Hmm.
But, instead of just a mindless meal at somewhere you don't even like,
Hmm.
I don't do that type of stuff anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to switch over real quick, share my screen, and kind of walk through your blog. So this is your blog, millionaireeducator.com. And one of my favorite things to look at, even though it still confuses me, is the free tax posts or the free money posts, where you talk about how you're working through the taxes and planning ahead of time. Like you planned what you were going to earn and you planned what you were going to save, and then kind of really spelling out what that means. So I want to ask you to take the reins here and kind of explain how you start thinking about this, because I know it still confuses me, even though I read through it. I'm like, this is brilliant. I want to do this. Even
Well,
though
it's funny.
the standard deduction, the child tax credit, that's stuff that we don't naturally think about unless we are intentionally sitting here looking at it and thinking about it.
Yeah, I thought this was my computer at first. You pulled this up. Now
Oh.
I see what we're doing. Yeah, this is my article from last year, and this is the one I'll be working on for the update. And essentially, a lot of people don't understand this. They hear a tax rate like there's a 12%, and they think that starts at $0, and that's not true. The government realizes that you need a certain amount of money just to live,
Hmm.
a family, and that is a standard deduction. And so let me just say this: for the 2020 this tax year, individual filers. Well, let's go. You've got a family. Let's just start with that.
Okay.
So you're married and you file jointly. So that
Hmm.
means the first $24,800 is free money. You don't owe anything on it. Okay. So now you have kids. I have a son.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, this is the second component. There's a tax credit. And the reason I just do the child tax credit in my calculation, because if you have kids, you're probably going to get a child tax credit. And
Hmm.
all I have done is with that, you see how it's $2,000 per child?
Mm-hmm. Right here in the middle of the screen.
Yes,
Yep.
this is what I've done is basically determine how much more income, because a credit cancels out an obligation basically. So you owe tax, you owe $2,000 tax. Oh, wait, looky here, you've got a child tax credit. It cancels it out. So the question is, how much money can you earn um, and have that credit canceled, that income amount? So if you scroll down here,
Okay.
you'll see. Let's see. All right, this is it. Standard deduction, it's just a number. You get that. All right.
Okay. That's
So
flat
that,
for everybody.
yeah,
Am I right?
for people that are married, filing jointly, and
Yep.
it's half of that if you're a single person. So this child tax credit, you see now I've got this 19,958.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the 10% bracket was 1,000, excuse me, 19,750.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's 10% of that? It's $1,975, right?
Okay.
So it's canceled out by that $2,000 credit. But wait, we still have $25 more of credit, but we don't have any more of the 10% bracket. We have now gone into the next tax bracket, which is the 12% bracket.
Okay.
So basically, what we do to get that 208, I'm going to check my numbers here. Um, it would be $25 divided by 0.12.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't have a calculator handy.
You
What
got
kind of?
it. You did it right here. So that's the 208.
Okay. Did I? Yeah. Well,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. I do a lot of this for the reader and for me when I'm doing this. Yeah. And so we add that together, and that's how we got that. Now, this is the magic line 24,8 plus 19,958. That means in 2020, a family of three, because we only had one child figured in there, can earn a little less than $45,000 before they owe any federal income tax. Now, I kind of stumbled onto this, in one of my mad scientist modes. But I thought, man, I wish someone had explained it to me like that, because then my goal would be, how do I shave my total income down to that number and keep my income low? Okay. And also the second part of this, it lets me know that any money after that amount is going to be taxed at 12%. So if you scroll down, there's something I do here to kind of, this was just a comparison, this box about 2020 to 2019, the year before. And it's,
Okay.
yeah, and it's just a little bit
Let me
more.
know when to stop.
So yeah, stop right here. This is the one. I finally started putting this, and this helped me understand it. So let's say, you know what? My goal is not to pay zero federal income tax. I'm gonna pay 1,000. Well, I got my free money amount, and then I want to figure out how much more money in the 12% bracket can I earn. So I can pull out another 83.33. All right.
Okay.
So basically, I'm deciding what my tax brackets, how my tax bill, what it's going to be. And I know that would give me 53,000 and change, but don't forget you're going to pay $1,000. So there it is after income tax. And this is where people can't believe it. What is your effective tax rate? You got $52,092, of income, and you paid $1,000 of income tax. That's a 1.92% effective tax rate. That's pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
And
Not bad.
yeah, and at 52,000, I'm here in South Georgia, that's good money. 52,000 in Mexico, that's really good money. And a lot of places in the world, that would be upper middle class minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see similar numbers over here if you want to take out, you decide you want to pay $2,000. Now, yeah, after you pay your tax, you've got 59,000 and change, and your rate is a little higher, but it's nothing, 3.37%.
Mm-hmm.
I can live with that. How about you?
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah, yeah. And then there are three. I just did it for 3,000, and that's close to $67,000, and you only pay $3,000 tax. So, and I always have the same thing: infinite confusion alert. And it's so true. For whatever reason, earthlings get confused with this part of the tax math, and even though it's a pretty simple calculation, but what I really like doing this article because I think it gives people like some general rules of thumb as they're
Yeah.
doing their tax planning, because most people, they don't think about taxes till about April 10th.
Right. So with just a
Yeah.
little bit of planning ahead of time, you can save yourself so many thousands.
Oh
You're not
yeah.
paying the government. you know, that you can sue
Right.
yourself later. You can, I hate that I make the mistake of saying you can hide it in a 403b. You're not hiding it, but they allow it. It's a legal thing, but you can put it in your 403b. You can put it in your 457 legally, and you're not paying so many of the taxes on it right then.
Well, and that's the deal. The government doesn't want you to be destitute in your old age.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I'm going to mute while I cough.
Okay. It's not the vid. I always feel like that whenever we're in public and someone sneezes. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Well, here, if allergy season started about 3 weeks after COVID here.
yeah.
You get a little tickle in your throat. You're like, oh, God, I don't want to cough for anybody. They're going to
Yeah.
freak
And
out.
my husband, I feel so bad. My husband's Korean. My kids all look 100% Korean. They're not. They're obviously mixed, but they sneeze in public. I'm like, guys, we're in a very, you know, white. Like, we're okay. We're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Allergies.
We live here. We didn't bring this in. Yeah.
Yes.
What was I saying?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's my fault. Just having some type of tax plan, you know, having even like a mediocre plan is better than no plan.
Right.
And, you know, you hear, and granted, sometimes I feel people's pain. They think they're paying too much. Okay. But there are things you can do. And I'm also very big on the fact that I think you need to get yourself in the best position for you and your family down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be, I don't know, this doesn't sit too well sometimes in the teacher's lounge. I don't want to beg a politician for a 2% pay raise.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Before taxes. And you start looking at what kind of bump you're actually talking. It's so little sometimes. I'd rather do this and take care of myself. And if we get pay raises, great, I'm happy. But
don't you wish, like, I don't know if it's the same in Georgia, but here, every time you start a new school year, you have to take, I don't know, 5 different trainings online, like bloodborne pathogens and bullying and all these different things. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if they gave us a little bit of knowledge about retirement every year, so people just had that awareness, just a little bit of awareness?
Yeah. You know,
so many people don't know about it, or 457s, or any of it. Just the terminology.
That's what you're doing. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of it blows my mind. You know, talking about my late start and not knowing anything, and then I mean, our net worth has gone way past $1 million now, right? Because that was 2016, and I just always thought, you know, not that I really lament it, but had I known what I was doing earlier, that would have been incredible. You know, I would have really. I mean, we're talking what, 5, 8, 10? I don't know. I mean, if I'd been saving early, maybe I wouldn't have had the space in my budget to do that, but I would have more money than now, that's for sure.
I wanted to do an over-under, just 5 questions for you. So you let me know if your answer would be over or under these numbers. You have visited over or under 10 countries?
Over.
Over?
Yes.
How about you have worked in over or under 10 districts?
Under
by the skin of your
teeth. Yes. I had to think. This is kind of close. Yeah.
We'll check in a couple of years. All right. I think I know the answer to most of these. Let's see. So for your retirement, to truly be like, okay, I'm done with schools, are you aiming for under or over 2 million? Funds.
Ideally over, but it might be under a bit, but that's okay because at 60 I get a pension.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. You've lived in as like a permanent resident over or under 5 states?
Permanent resident. That's shockingly under. Yeah, because I didn't change my license.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't change my residency. Yes.
All right, last question as far as the over-unders, and then we'll wrap up tonight. I don't know the right terminology to ask this appropriately, but like when you look at your retirement funds, maybe you can word the question after I tell you my thoughts. And you can, I know, I've heard in the past that you spend a lot of time in like looking at target retirement date type funds. Your overall nest egg of funds, over or under 15 funds?
Well under.
Well under?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm an index investor, so I am heavily in VTSAX.
Yeah.
Just because it's, you know, the whole U.S. stock market, about 45 to 49% of their revenue comes from overseas. So I have a very small international percent. I think I'm up at 1%. Um, and even some of the funds that I have are redundant because I'm looking at like Schwab and Fidelity,
Mm-hmm.
just looking at their platform so I can help people. One of the reasons I like those other Schwab and Fidelity is that they do have low cost index funds as well with very low minimums. Like you can open up accounts with $1.
Yeah.
So where at Vanguard you need 3,000. So if someone's starting out, 3,000 is very difficult.
Right.
Many
Yeah, that's what
times,
I
right?
found because I wanted to get into VTSAX after doing all my reading, but we can't,
Right.
like we can do a couple $100 at a time, but we can't, so we decided just to go VTI. We're doing ETFs right now, but
VTI is good. Like with Schwab, you could do SWTSX.
mm-hmm.
That's their total stock market, and I think they charge 3 basis points.
Okay.
So incredibly low fees. So that's just another option. And most of my money's at Vanguard. I'm very glad Vanguard exists, and other people have had to mimic them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why these other ones have come up with they just got tired of conceding all these clients. So it's great. Competition's good. We have many good choices now. All right.
I know you have a lot going on right now besides school. You are agreeing to speak to me. You've been in several other podcasts. I know you have an upcoming event with the 403 Wise guys on the 28th, right?
Yes, correct.
You have anything else going on that you want to kind of plug and let us know what's happening, what's coming up for you?
Well, my basketball season's about to start here. So we've got an abbreviated season this year because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's going to be a blur from say October 26th to about February. So I'll try to finish a few blog posts. You probably noticed I haven't had many in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's been kind of a crazy year.
When people want to find you, where should they go first? Besides your blog, we already talked about that, millionaireeducator.com. Are you on any other social media, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter under my old alias, Ed_Mills_. And and you'll see my name. I just wrote Gerry Born in parentheses. So I just kind of drop posts there or links to things I find interesting. I also have a small Facebook presence where I will drop things.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to write some posts so I can drop them there. But yeah, it's very easy in the age of social media to find people. I'm not on anything else though,
Yeah.
like Instagram and all that, because
Mm-hmm.
I just find it just blows I get saturated though. Yeah, I've had a problem recently just like completing all that, like getting back to people on emails because I've
Mm-hmm.
been so like busy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess like the last thing I want to do is sit in front of my computer, like doing emails.
Yeah.
So I gotta do better with that because I get questions all the time. And, it's funny because when people give you their scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard to process everything. This is why I'm not a financial planner. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people love word problems, but you start looking at millions of them or lots of them, and
Yeah.
everyone's got their own little nuance. So if I don't answer your email, it's not that I don't like it. I just might be swamped.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that's happening more and more to me now.
Oh, well, I appreciate you taking time for this, and so you'll see that.
Try to make me. Is it going to have video?
Yep.
Try to make me look like George Clooney. Okay.
Done. Done. All right.
Okay.
And I will also do the event on the 28th, and I'm excited about that. So I'll see you there. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.